Hello and welcome back to the channel for another video. So Shannon, Creepshow Art decided to upload this video. Not something that I was expecting, and what a way to end the year or start the year depending where you are. It's currently January 1st here, but I think it would have been New Year's Eve in other places. It's an interesting video, clocks in at just over 2.5 hours, just binge watching the whole thing. Thought I'd share my thoughts. So I want to say that it's not the worst video ever made, and it does provide a lot of evidence, but a lot of it is just whataboutism. Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff. It's like, why does this even matter? There's a whole bunch of stuff from accounts of Emily's that, I mean, I don't know how she found them, but regardless of that, there's a bunch of stuff from like when Emily was like 14, 15, 16, and it's acting like she hasn't changed and people don't change, you know? Stuff from like 2005 and 2006, 2008, that kind of stuff, you know? And there's a lot of things to take into consideration. Well, Shannon does talk about Emily's mental health and how I think she lists off like short-term memory loss, which is a really interesting thing to talk about, and then just kind of go like, well, she's lying about this, you know? And there are some things in Emily's video with what has been presented by Creepshow Art that don't add up. I'm willing to concede that, but there's a lot that still isn't addressed, I guess. For example, the lolcow thing is lolcow thing never mentioned, so I guess we can assume that that's true. That was what she was initially kind of cancelled for, I believe. It wasn't the Emily Artful video. It was the post on lolcow. It was like, here's an IP address and here's all these posts, you know, the self-promotion and that kind of thing, I think. So that's not addressed, so reason to cancel her there, I guess. Emily has stated that she's going to make a response, so that should be interesting. Not everything's addressed, and there's people bought into it that I'm just kind of like, why? Like, the stuff that just doesn't make sense to me. As I said, there's a lot of whataboutisms. The video, by the way, will be linked in the description. 2.5 hours long, so if you have time, maybe watch it. Is it worth it? I'm not sure. For me, it doesn't change anything. As I said, the lolcow drama was like the main reason why it was cancelled in the first place. And then Emily Artful's video came out and put the kind of nail in the coffin. And while it seems as if what's been presented does show that not all of that adds up by dates and such, the reception hasn't been the best, which I was a bit surprised about, you know, because everyone loves a redemption arc, but I guess there's so much in there that it's just kind of whataboutisms that people don't really care, I guess. She does state also that she is not returning to YouTube, so I guess bye, Shannon. A lot of it is, I think, just kind of like, look at these bad things Emily Artful did when she was like 14, 15, 16, and look at how they contradict things like 6 years later. Well, no, not 6 years, geez. 2005 is 15 years. 15 years? Yeah, geez. That's over a decade ago. Wow. Like, look at all this stuff, you know? And there's so much. I mean, I definitely learned a bit about Emily. I learned that she used to do anime reviews and stuff. It's kind of interesting, you know? But yeah, acting like it's fact and stuff just isn't really the way to go. And also, I mean, there's multiple things that could attribute to it, you know? There's definitely, hindsight's a thing, you know? Like, Emily saying stuff 15 years ago, that for example, it's like, well, in hindsight, maybe the situation is seen differently. Through therapy and stuff, you can get different understandings of situations that you weren't aware of when you were in the situation, you know? Maybe people's patterns of behavior, that kind of thing can become more apparent when you're out of it, out of the situation, and when you look back on it, you can kind of be like, they did X, Y, and Z, and that's the pattern behaviors of someone who is, I don't know, a sociopath or something like that, you know? There's a whole bunch of stuff that can just be put down to, well, she has changed. And Emily has never presented herself to be perfect. And I feel like that's important. I myself have made quite a few videos about the Creepshow Art drama. She does briefly address Odessa Franklin Boutwell. She says that Odessa, Creepshow Art, and Sideshow Art were not her, which to be expected now. I know that I made videos about them, and the potential, you know, that was kind of part of a series of videos I did, and I thought that was kind of important to do. Like, I didn't want to prove that they were her. I wanted to kind of answer community questions and kind of try and get an understanding of who the people were that were running the account. There's also no sorry in the video, from what I know. There's no apologies. It's more a look at how bad this person is to accuse me of stuff, and look at how flimsy some of this stuff is, or whatever. Like, they lied about this, so why aren't they lying about everything, you know? It's more a character assassination than anything else. There are other people who are bought into it that just don't really make sense, although I think it was important for her to address her sister, for example. I think that was important. There's things like, we should have seen these DeviantArt accounts from 2005 that show that maybe it wasn't always how Emily said it was, and this account, this Facebook account from like 2012 or whatever, says something else, and I'm not sure who would have known if Shannon hadn't put that stuff out there. A lot of it is pretty personal, which I guess is to be expected after Emily's video is pretty personal and stuff. But yeah, and as I said, it's basically, the video is basically trying to be a character assassination, to bring into doubt Emily, and therefore bring into doubt her videos about Shannon, so that Shannon can kind of be redeemed in the public eye. That's my opinion, at least. And that's a bit confusing, considering Shannon has said that she's not coming back to YouTube. Why would you want to be seen positively publicly if you don't really care, or you say that you don't really care? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lawsuit. I think that a lawsuit would be probably maybe a good way for Shannon to go about it if she feels like she's been wrongfully screwed over or whatever, and that there's like slander or libel, whatever. I feel like that would be a good way to go, and that could have been done even without this video. Something which just a really slight just trigger warning for this next bit. There's mentions of abuse and claims of abuse throughout Shannon's video, because Emily mentioned it in her video, and then she goes back to as early as I think 2005 on DeviantArt saying, well, she claimed that this person abused her or whatever. There's different forms of abuse. Emotional abuse is something that exists, obviously. If someone says that they're being abused, it doesn't necessarily mean it's physical or whatever. There's a whole bunch of things that fall into abuse, and I feel like that's important to understand, that Emily's not just saying, these people hit me, you know. Shannon presents just a bunch of people that she's accused of abuse or harassment or whatever. Harassment takes different forms, abuse takes different forms, and I feel like that's important to distinguish. This is just my thoughts on the video. It doesn't change anything, although I think it does answer some questions that people had, which is, I guess, helpful for an overall story. Did the video need to be made? I mean, I guess it's helpful for the overall story, as I said, but could have just been a lawsuit, you know, if you have the money to go to that extent, you know. The court of public opinion is not a lawsuit, basically. But yeah, that's what you, and have a nice day. Peace.